Thank you for joining us for part 2 episode of looking and exploring professional development stages and volunteer development by Dr. Jim Rutledge, retired extension educator. Today's guests, we had Marla Lowder, Ann Kowenstrodt, and Emily Swinyer. Thank you guys so much. And also joining us, we have Megan and Alan. If by chance you would like a quick refresher on part 1, we did start exploring stages, and stage 1 of our extension professionals really look at the capacity of the program. So very limited, dependent on the energy and interest of the educator. Looking at stage 2, the educator, just as a quick caution, don't be confused this with your job title. This is actually part of your teaching of others. The educator is seen as the expert and the decision maker, dependence on you as the professional. Volunteers are the recipient of the education, teaches the others what the educator has been taught, and then it also is very limited as far as the leadership and decision making of the program. So transitions into that, we also look at various aspects of capacity is limited, really looking at the energy and interest of the educator. We'll move into part 2 of this conversation, looking at stage 3, the manager, and stage 4, the leader. Thank you so much, and we'll jump back into that conversation.
Hey, the third stage of professional development is called the manager stage. This is where the 4-H professional is beginning to facilitate, the involvement of others by empowering and managing others to do the work. Volunteers are seen as employees and are given selected leadership roles under our direct supervision, but they do have more decision-making and leadership of the program. In this stage, you are starting to look to colleagues and other volunteers and other organizations to be collaborators. You're interested in exploring beyond your normal sphere to find new ideas, and you're building capacity in your program because you're finally letting go a little bit. Emily, that's just for you. And our program is actually growing because it's getting out from underneath us, and we're recognizing that it's not our job or our place to do all of the things, and that other people can come in and do some fantastic things as well too. So in this one, some of our conversations are about looking to other colleagues and other counties or districts and seeing what they're doing. Within the state, you may be becoming the expert on a topic, and you're maybe ready to attempt a new level of burnout called monotony. As I describe it, this is the pre-innovation stage where you're going, okay, I've got a handle on the program. Now I want to we can start doing some new things. Let's get creative. And also kind of getting everything figured out, making another decision about if you're staying or leaving. And Marcella, you talked about environmental norm of expectations. Can you explain that, please?
Yes, so kind of reflecting back on some literature as far as related to extension professionals leaving and the time frames of everything. So it's like within the first 3 years, we talked about that burnout. We talked a little bit more about, okay, you get extension, that's as an individual choice, are you going to stick with it or go forward? The next stage is 5 years. So 5 years, if your institution is doing promotion in tenure, this is that stage of, okay, are you able to go on to that type of promotion tenure? That's the 5-year stage. So some educators may leave or professionals may leave with that time period within that topic. The next set is 7 years. And then from there, it's about 11 years. So Megan and I are talking about this is beyond that 5 years where the investment has been made to the institution within your career, that aspect of everything. So definitely those parameters of the norms of expectation is you're transitioning from, let's say, an assistant professor to an associate professor. My that I do in New Mexico is those are the kind of parameters. You apply your 5th year for your 6th year of being transitioning from promotion and tenure assistant to associate professor, and then you'll have that opportunity to move forward. So looking at that normalizing of the institution would be the environment also, because you've been in your program or your area long enough that you may have also experienced some administration changes. So it's kind of all within every 7 years. If you've been in extension for more than 10 years, you've seen the transition of branding, also the mission of your institution. So all of these, as you stay in your position, you see the transitions of the institution change also around you.
I think that's a good example. I've been in Wyoming for 12 years, and we are currently going through our 2nd round of renaming the College of Ag and Natural Resources. And it's very true. Marla's holding up 4, so you've done it 4 times.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of truth to power in what you just said, Marcella, is if you sit back long enough, you can just watch the whole thing turn over on itself many times in 12 years or more.
I think I've seen, I don't know how many different leaderships we've had. Just up, I'm not even going to put Idaho in this. I'm just going to stay with Alaska. I think we've had at least 4 that I can think of where we've had 4 different leaderships. We've definitely changed enrollment programs 4 times. We've changed the entry that we do for our annual reports 3 or 4 times, and I'm tired of changing all the time. It gets very frustrating. And that's where I get aggravated in my career the most. It's like something's going good. Why are we switching? Why do we have to change? But promotion and tenure, I'm myself and another agent here are probably the last because we've switched over to staff up here. They still have to do reporting, but they don't have to do all the, you got to do this and that to get through the blocks. And that's probably where I get the most burnout on and tiredness of in my career is there. And I can't figure out how to deal with it. Sorry. I wish I could give you some philosophy on, you just roll your eyes and say it's a job, and I love my job. I love the flexibility. I have an okay retirement that's going to come out of it. So I got 2 more years. Let's keep going.
Yeah. And I think for myself, I've entered in this wave of changes. I have made the decision to put my head down and have no comment or no opinion, kind of stay out of it. Have enough in my home county to keep me entertained and keep me busy. And, I did take the survey to rename the college because that came through email. So I did do that. But a lot of those changes, it's kind of not where my fight's at. Good, bad, and different. It's kind of, I don't know. I just like to be creative and innovative, and those above me who get paid way more than me can worry about all those things. That's not my problem. Also a terrible attitude, but
no, it's fine. The words that really, people have key words that really set them off, right? Strategic plan. I cannot stand those words because I hear it every time with every new person. And we go and we invest all this money into a strategic plan. And honestly, do we do it? Do we do what we say we're going to do in that strategic plan? Hopefully you guys are better at it than I am. I'm going to switch gears on this and go back over here and talk about, this is where you're helping your volunteers to, you know, this is the time when my volunteers are out leading the charge. They're the ones going forward, and I'm back here doing all the paperwork or whatever that needs to happen and trying to figure out, you know, how can we grow it? Shooting sports, great. We got shooting sports leaders now. They're trying to open it up to the district to get more people in. Go over it. Send me your flyers. I put them out. I don't have time to do it all. The one thing that I did start, and this is a little bit of a story here. I started a cloverbud club this year because not all the clubs want to take cloverbuds, right? They don't want to deal with and they're the cutest little people, right? Those cloverbuds. And they're the future of our program. So we started a club that's solely based on these kids. And I pulled in 2 team leaders who are around age 14, who are leading the club. Not me. They are leading it. They come up with ideas. They come up with everything that they want to do with those little kids. And those kids are having a great time. And part of the thing is our second cloverbud meeting, I was coming to town and ended up in a pretty bad accident. So they had to take it and go. And it was really, even though I didn't want to be in that accident, it was the greatest thing for that club because it pushed them to take it, and they're doing an awesome job. And those kids get a leadership project in my book this year for everything. So, but yeah, this is where you push other people. They got to really take the charge, and you don't have to be there. You have a horse schooling show, you have a livestock clinic, you're in charge, include all the people, have fun. I'm not showing up.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't think that you get to this stage. I mean, obviously you have to go through all the stages, but you've got the relationships established and built and kind of cornerstoned that you can trust people to go off and do the clinics and do the teaching. And we made the copies at the extension office, and they could just swing in and pick them up. And
I don't even do that. They come make their own copies.
Dang, you're vicious. Other thoughts or opinions on this stage? I like this stage myself because it is kind of that, like you've been around long enough to kind of know some things. And I think that's the interesting part of this stage is you're starting to kind of connect all the dots and pieces of everything as best you can.
When I came into the role I'm in right now, this in particular, I have my livestock auction committee has been around for years and years and years, and they have their set program, they have their leadership roles set up, they run their own show. And so I participate in their meetings so they can ask questions, and I provide information that's come down from the university. But for the most part, they do all of their own workshops. I mean, things need to get approved and stuff like that. And at one point when I started in this role here, one of them asked, it was one of their officers said to me, so why do we need you? What is your role? And it was like, whoa. So, I mean, and so coming into this role as district educator here, a program coordinator, I had all of these different levels. I had new people coming in, new volunteers that was, hand holding. This is how you run a club. These are the roles that you need to have, to this sort of situation. I mean, so it was, trying to develop this understanding with all of the different volunteers in their various stages of being in 4-H. And so it is a juggle, but it's a good juggle.
I think one thing that we have to be careful is we empower volunteers, though. And I'll go off on this route. Some volunteers can take it too far, and you have to remind them yes, you are in charge, but you have to work as a team, and you have to, try not to offend anyone, because that does happen. And if you are always taking the lead and doing this and doing that, others aren't going to grow. So as I am empowering you, I want you to empower others so that you are a team and you don't have to carry the burden the whole time.
And I think in that too, Marla, is there question of we're giving things away, right? We're giving away control left and right in this stage, but also having a hard conversation within ourselves about what do I want to hold on to, or what are, the way I strategize it in my own head is, what is something like I will pick on my cat project right now because they are so wonderful and they do so many good things, but they are terrible at getting the word out about some of the things they're doing. So how can I help them do that better? Is that send out the all 4-H extension email to all of my colleagues and say, hey, we're having an open cat show. Can I put it on our little social media page and set up a deal with the newspaper and the radio? Like, I can do all those kinds of things. Let them continue to be the stars and they can do all the things. But I think that's really the beauty of this stage, is you're learning where the volunteers have some good, very good things that they can do, and how can I help fill in some of the holes in that too? Because I think that's kind of my viewpoint, right, wrong, and different. I just see how can I help, sometimes, and you cannot mess up my brand new copier. I'm here to tell you, you will not make your own copies because it is brand new. We just signed a new lease. Don't screw it up yet. This is why we don't have nice things, is because I let people use things. But that's why I also think that's a lovely thing too, is, but also making that decision. Like, Emily is great on Canva. She does all of the beautiful things in Canva. I cannot do that. I let her do that. But kind of, if there's a volunteer who loves to do the things on Canva, are you allowed to turn them loose on the Canva, even if it's your special project? I say yes.
The other piece too is recognizing things that you love that kind of fill your cup. For me, because my background is in teaching, I love clover buds, and every month I am the clover bud leader. I love it. It is my thing. I get so excited, and the program is we have like 22 clover buds plus like 2 parents. We're gonna have to use 2 rooms next time. Just take the divider out. But it's wonderful because it gives me all the warm fuzzies. They're getting excited about the program. A lot of them are brand new families. So it gives me that excitement that I love. And that's the only reason I'm doing it. I'm sure I could find somebody, hey, can you do a craft with some kids once a month? It's not about need for a body in the room. It's about a personal need.
Good point.
And the same piece goes with that Canva and the creativity. I love being creative. Some people would see their newsletter or something like that as a burden, and I look forward to it because it gives me that creative outlet that I don't really get in writing emails about pig viruses in our county. I don't get that putting out shooting sports schedule fires and crises, but I get to be creative so I get to be selective about what I pour myself into. So clover buds, pour myself into that. Junior leaders, so our teen program, I pour myself into that. So my bookends, I love it in the beginning and I love them in the end, because the retention piece on the junior, and I also combine them. So our junior leaders come and help teach clover buds. But so identifying what you need and like, and somehow finding the space and time, carving that out to let yourself do that, because you have things you like still.
Yes. And I think honoring that too. There's something to be said for, my cup is filled with kids. most of us sign on to this job because we want to in some way, shape or form play with kids. So I am well known in Goshen County 4-H that I will swing in. If there's something happening with 4-H kids, I'm coming. Maybe at some point I'm going to make an appearance, and I like to go in, and I don't have any agenda. I'm just going in. That's important for me. I need to go play at shooting sports. I need to go play at livestock judging. I need to go sit in on horse judging. I'm going to do it when my schedule allows. I think that's the part of it, is owning that and honoring that. For me to feel better in my world, I have to be with kids at some point, because it's very easy to get lost in the behind the scenes work of our jobs. And so many of us, I think, don't, we have a junior leader, if you will, or volunteer. And so we let them do all the work that we also love. Well, now we've just taken the fun stuff out of our job. So I think it's important too. And then honor, if our night is, if this is Clover Buds, and even though we enjoy it and it's a component of our job, it's still our job. And so, but then honor that and continue to do those things that you love to do.
I am really excited for the opportunity that we have as 4-H professionals to choose what fills our cup, because there's not a lot of, we talked about flexibility earlier with being able to, arrange our schedules in certain ways, things like that. But it's amazing that we can find a need in our community that also lights us up, and combine both of those and run with it. That's amazing. There is a lot of work to be done in our jobs, and there's a lot of things that we have to do that are kind of those requirements that we need to be running things a certain way, and it also depends on the region. But I am also very grateful that that's something that we are able to do. For me, it's outdoor education, working with camp counselors, and then going back earlier to what was said about how we engage the older youth to teach the younger kids. And that way it's like double youth development happening, because it's the older kids learning from teaching the younger kids, and the younger kids want to be like the older kids and join the program. And so it's this beautiful funnel where they can continue on in the 4-H system and really glean those developmental outcomes that we offer as a program. I mean, all of the research that we do across the nation, that's where that magic sauce, if you will, that's where we really shine as a program, and honestly have so much more room to grow. We're talking about trying to reach 10 million kids in the next, by 2025. We can continue doing that by using and organizing the youth we already have.
So the final stage is stage 4, and this is leadership. The 4-H professional now sees the volunteers as partners and a key resource to the program, and volunteers contribute to the mission because they helped write the mission. As a professional, the volunteers are partners, and you are still teaching as a 4-H professional, but you're allowing the volunteers to contribute in a meaningful way to the overall organization. In this, you invest your energy in the vision and the right things to expand the program, and you're looking for new partners and new sources of funding and new opportunities. But you still, as we just said, get to do the things that you still enjoy. You're open to partnerships with colleagues and community groups, and you still get to do the teaching, and you're engaged in the evolution and growth of the profession and serving as a mentor and role model. So this is what I would term the innovation stage, is you're getting to go do the fun stuff, whether that's curriculum development, expanding and growing your program, but also service to the greater good. So perhaps you're a state association officer or ready to join up on the National Association. And it's kind of the ultimate pushback against the burnout of monotony, which again, the burnout is still prevalent, but now you have some new creative tools to fight against it in this stage. And does anyone actually get to this stage, Marla?
I see myself after 23 years still in the last stage. Yeah, we're always expanding our program, and we are talking curricular and development. I mean, I've got a new thing on my plate that I'm trying to think about, horseless horse clover bud program, 6 lessons or something like that. So there's always something like that, but yeah, I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I have a follow-up question. When Megan was going through this and describing this stage, I thought of what was said earlier about being a mentor.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have to get to this stage to be a mentor to other upcoming professionals?
No.
Not unless
Okay.
it's thrust upon you.
We'll talk more about that. Like, why is that? Why?
I don't think you need to be at this stage to be a mentor. I think the last stage or even the second stage, you are a mentor always to those new incoming employees, agents. I would hope you would look at that as yourself. I get a bunch of questions up here. And I've actually been asked recently if I would mentor someone in our state, but I feel like I'm already doing it. So I think you can be a mentor at any stage, pretty much. And I would hope that if someone reached out and asked you questions, you would answer them. Don't turn anybody away just because you don't. They're seeking you as and I went blank again. Elena, right? No.
Emily.
Emily, sorry.
Yes.
As Emily said earlier, that she tells her volunteers, you're the expert in that one.
Right.
We're not the expert in everything, but some of us have been around a while. We know a little more because of people have put us through the ringer a few times or whatnot. If someone reaches out to ask me a question, I'm happy to answer it any way I can. And you can be any stage to answer questions. You're not the expert in everything, but you may have an expert in that area that they're seeking help in.
Well, I think that also being able to, if you're going to mentor and kind of as you grow yourself professionally, I think there's value in that for a newer employee, seeing that you still have something to offer, even as you're still growing and learning, and that you're a valuable part of, and that you're never going to be this like prime specimen, and you're never going to have all your crap together, and there's still going to be stuff.
Yep.
And you're still going to feel like you're drowning some days, and your calendar's not going to have an empty day, or it's going to have weird highlighted ones that are sacred and that nothing can be scheduled on that day. But I mean, as Megan has talked me off the edge of the cliff more than she knows, because I was able to see myself in her struggles. I was able to say, okay, what I'm dealing with is not foreign, and she survived and she's lived to tell about it, and it's going to be okay. So there was that encouragement piece, but to also know that that we're all works in progress, no matter where we are professionally. And yeah, she saved my bacon. And really, I mean, I'm telling you, Megan, there were days when I would call you in tears because I'm like, I can't, I got nothing. There are no more pieces of me that I can carve off. And that was before I was able to set those boundaries. And like, there was a major shift after I got to that point, because it was either you're either gonna make some structural changes to how you're doing your job, or you're gonna leave and you're not gonna do it anymore.
Yeah.
And that was that crossroads. That was that burnout place. And
so as we look at this, I think Megan is an awesome mentor for Emily. Emily's at the point where she is going to be an awesome mentor for the first year employee,
Mhm.
because they're closer to that stage. For someone like me who's been way out here forever, it's hard for me to get back to that stage where Emily's at and what she can relate to that new employee. I'm just like, well, I've been there. I can give you all my opinions and all my experience, but Emily remembers it so much
fresh.
better that
But
she can be a better mentor, I think.
And don't you think there's something to be said, though, Marla, is that even for your 23 years, I think you still hit new challenges once in a while where you still need to, I think we mentor each other.
Exactly.
I don't think it's fair. Like, I'll be honest, I'm one of the senior statesmen of Wyoming 4-H, which is really intimidating thought process for me, because I still think that I'm, in my 3rd year of extension in the state of Ohio some days. So to kind of, I do share with Emily quite often, like, I don't think that I'm as sage as you think I am. I've just seen a thing or two more, but I still need mentored myself. And so I think that's the lovely thing that happens in extension organically and very naturally, is that we mentor each other. Emily teaches me all the technology Google-ness that I need to know in my life, except
For the phone thing.
yes,
Yeah.
Ellen did get you on that one.
Glad to help.
Man,
But there's so much, like, I personally see myself, the older I get, perhaps the more out of touch I become with some of the things. And so the young guns teach me all the time some of these
Exactly.
cooler things. So I don't think that it's kind of the penultimate of, oh, you want to be a stage 4 educator so you can just have all these kids
You
worshiping.
don't know it all.
Yeah, because you don't. As
You
nice
don't
as it
know.
is, it's a warm fuzzy, but there's still so much I don't know.
Well, another thing is, it depends on a lot of the culture of your extension that you have at your university or your state, or even regionally, because I think it's important to make sure that you're taking time to build that relationship of trust. Because like any organization, there can be a culture of distrust or a culture of toxic pessimism, that might exist in your organization for the people who are listening. And so it's so important to see, we were talking a little bit about cohorts, people that are starting together, or it might be that you are relying on a cohort. And it may not be that you may be able to find someone that you can trust yet, but it might even be someone out of the state that you meet at NAE 4-HYDP conference, that just to talk shop with, or hey, I'm struggling on this thing, I think that's something important to think about as well. It may not come naturally, it may take time, but having those relationships built up can be make a huge difference.
Well, I'm just looking at the slide that Megan has up here about this stage, and I think the innovation stage, at least for me, and I think probably hit a lot of people, was when COVID happened and everything got shut down and we had to switch gears. And so whether we liked it or not, we had to switch into curriculum development, because we had to create new opportunities for kiddos to do things and to still have that sense of belonging and mastery. And then also with the program expansion and growth, when we shut down, all of our cooperative extension classes went to video conferencing, hands down, everything. So our reach became so much greater and just expanded, crazily. I mean, we have people from around the state that would tune in to our workshops and things that we had here at the farm. And still we're just slowly going into hybrid courses and workshops now. But I mean, just the switch that a lot of us had to do more outreach and program expansion, because we couldn't just, capture those 4-H kids. It was more, everyone, because everybody needed these opportunities, especially when kiddos were, parents were thrown into this homeschool situation, or at least had to be, to guide their kids in the online learning, which they weren't used to. But, a lot of parents have no idea how to teach science at all. And so it was, and I love science. That's the best part of this piece. And so when I think it was April of 2020, me and the farm director here started a Facebook Live Wednesday, Walkabout Wednesday, and we still do it every Wednesday for an hour. We do a Facebook Live, and it started all on just citizen science opportunities for kids and their family. And it's developed into these just weird little sciencey stuff, but it's this opportunity to get out. And we walk around the farm. We do a tour every once in a while. People tune in from all over. Most of my family from Wisconsin tune in. My mother is always on. We've had people from Africa tune in, which is such a bizarre thing, but then get to share with them, all of the cool stuff that we can do here with Extension and 4-H, because we, bring it all in and circle it back to all of the cool stuff that we do here. And so I think that piece, something to come out of COVID was just these opportunities for more outreach and to get our message out there. And, how cool the land grant system is with research to outreach to public. So that's where I saw that going.
Sorry, I was writing down what Ann just said as far as the research, the outreach to public. I think that is going to be the biggest part of what we forget of what we do and how we do it, because a lot of extension, we pride ourselves of having that research component to all our aspects. That's what sets us apart from all the other youth development opportunities. So I thought that was good. And conversation wise, I had to write that down. Thank you, Ann. So going back to what we were talking about with greater good, that's the part I think we've talked about it many times within our conversation today, is within our jobs, we have that flexibility. Larry Smith, he is an author of a book that I read a while back, and he talked about aspects of having a great career, and a great career has 4 components. So one provides you with a feasible of income. So we have that most likely sometimes. It provides you an opportunity to give to the greater good, and it allows you to live out a passion. And then within those dynamics, it allows you freedom. So when we talk about extension, I think within me, those hit my career opportunities within avenues. So looking back at the greater good, within the stage of our careers, we are seeking, and this is a conversation that I had with Megan, is we're now providing respect, how we can transition, looking back at preventing that burnout, because we've been there, we see that. Now, can we break those monotony burnouts? But at the same time, we're stepping up into those leadership roles. Even though we may think we're not at those dynamics, we also have colleagues that look to us for that expertise. So at this stage, we're known for what our passion is. So whether it is camping, environmental science, or clover buds, our colleagues know that that's our passion, that's our forte. So they're looking to us for those support. And so when we talk about our association, this is another way we can contribute back to having that perspective and making those decisions, because now we have those, let's say, battle scars to look back on and realizing, okay, this is how we go through what we can do, lessons learned for the greater good. So our association officers, we have transitions, and connecting with our state associations, the turnover is there. And so having that stability within our careers, I think, really provides us with those components. And it is amazing to know, and having those conversations with colleagues of you're not in it alone. Emily was talking about all the things she felt early on, and having those conversations, I think, is the biggest key for the greater good, because now you're no longer the quiet majority. Now you're the voice of the aspects of everything, where it's kind of a scary thought, but you're part of the veteran agents or educators, professionals to help the rest of everything. And it kind of trickles out, which when you think about it, you're like, oh my goodness. And Marla, within your contributions of your career and also within the association, you've seen how easily transitions within your institution and all the trends of software and innovation. So it provides you with a big perspective of where we're at, where we're going, what we can do, what are those lessons learned.
So I don't know if I ever answered Emily's question about where the educator work stops and the volunteer work begins, but I think it's safe to say that it's kind of depending on where you're at in your professional career, what stage you're at is probably the definitive answer for that. When I talked with our state master gardener coordinator on this topic yesterday, and I asked him about volunteerism, because no one comes into this job with any hint of a clue on how to manage volunteers or work with volunteers. And we were talking about resources available. And of course, there's the National Volunteer Conference that just happened. And his question back to me was, how do you engage volunteers in a way that doesn't annoy you? Which I thought was such a fantastic question back. Because really he said that when you work with volunteers, they should contribute to your sanity. And I thought that was an interesting thought process, as depending on where you're at in your career development, maybe all volunteers make you crazy because you have such a stranglehold on all the things that they don't do it correctly. But anyway, so you have to train yourself on the job, and it is very, very, very much dependent on where you're at as a professional. So at that point, I will turn it over to closing thoughts. This has been a great topic.
You may be in one stage or another, but you can be in multiple stages on there. You're not designated to just one of those. There are times I'm still a servant. There are times I'm the educator, the manager, the leader. Even at this stage, you're not just put into one. You may be one more than another at times in your career, but you're going to hit all those stages. Even later on in life, you're going to be mixing them together. So
Now, I agree with Marla too, because it's, how you view your role, but also how the volunteer views their role as well, and how those connections can be made, because we might see the volunteer as the learner, but maybe the volunteer views themselves as a teacher. So I think there's a, kind of a delicate balance there as well, but we're all have, I believe too, we're all at different roles depending on the situation and the volunteer.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I absolutely agree with that. Since the pandemic, since 2020, I've become a single agent county, which is nothing that I signed up to do all those years ago. And one of the projects, I'm now like the master gardener coordinator. I also work with the volunteer board for farmers market. And it's interesting how Emily sees me as this level 4 genius sage on the rock, quoting Buddhist wisdom, and in 4-H, that yet over in the master gardener arena, I am 100,000,000% a beginner, because it's a whole new group of people and dynamics, and learning the expectations they have of me and what I expect of them. And we have not yet figured out where that line is together. So I very much feel like I am just a young baby Yoda when it comes to that.
Baby Yoda is pretty cute, so
That's all I got going for me right now.
and valuable, I'm
I'm glad you brought that up. I thought that was an important because it's so true. I don't know that anybody says they're operating at a level 3 all the time.
I feel like I'm slowly acquiring a little bits and pieces of the next one. But I don't know if you ever like move past, like Marla said, you gain the capacity to work at a different level, but depending on what the task is, you still may be operating over here. Like some of your project areas really need you to spoon feed it to them.
And I think that's part of the growth as well, is recognizing that you can slide back and forth into different roles.
Yeah.
And, you know, depending on the situation and your volunteers.
Well, seriously, I agree everything that we have said about making sure that you are aware you're always learning. You know, you're always developing. We're a youth development organization, but we're also developing as human beings and helping our volunteers develop, and not only empowering our volunteers, but empowering our youth as well. So I'm very grateful to have been able to chat with all of you about this, and it was really awesome just to hear your perspectives. And you know, this is really helpful to many new folks joining 4-H as a career, and that's what this podcast is really intended to be, is to not only for the new folks, but people who are maybe also in this role and maybe going through the similar things, and let them know that they're not alone. Like, it's okay to feel like you're trying to figure things out and struggling, and it's okay to talk about that. And so thank you for opening up and sharing your own personal takes and perspectives, and we're excited to get this out.
Yeah, it's been a ton of fun. Thanks for inviting me, Megan.
Well, thanks to all of you for being experts in the field.
This has been a 2022 production of the NAE 4-H YDP Western Region.
The West is the best. Please join us for our next episode.